I'll start us off with acknowledgement of country. I come to you today from the traditional lands of the Camaragal people, and in the spirit of reconciliation, we acknowledge the traditional custodians of the country throughout Australia and their connections to land, sea, and community. We pay our respect to their elders past, present, and emerging, and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples here today. Welcome to the Australian User Group. Today we're talking about automated testing in OutSystems, and we'll have RJ, Stuart, and Ben run us through how we become masters of it. We'll start off with RJ. He's a QA specialist at Phoenix. All right, over to you, RJ.
All right, so hey everyone, I'm RJ and I'm presenting from Manila. I'm a QA specialist at Phoenix DX, and so my topic for this afternoon is going to be low-code test automation with Catalan. The catchphrase is that you don't need to be technical to automate your tests. So we all know that test automation is usually done by quality engineers or developers in tests. And this specific tool is designed to not be used or not be created by specialists or by QE engineers. So in this session, we'll be learning about Catalan itself. I'll be doing a bit of a demo, as well as some other capabilities, or what capabilities, because it has plenty of capabilities. I'm going to be demoing just the main ones, and when to actually use it, or what kind of organization or teams is it designed for. So first, let's start with Catalan. So what is it actually? So, and you guys might have been familiar with Selenium and Appium, because mainly it's the most commonly used tool for some time. And actually there's some legacy systems that are still using it. And Catalan is actually utilizing those two tools as well as some other more. So it's an IDE designed to automate tests on web by using Selenium, mobile tests using Appium, Windows, API tests, and many more, which I'll cover on later. So it started as a free internal use application. It was developed, I won't say it's open source, but there's a community behind it. I'm a part of the QA that has also have been working on it ever since 2015, since it started soft and initially launched, and it has now expanded into a suite of diverse tools to automate different kinds of testing. So it involves white box testing, black box, and many more. And it uses methodologies or testing types such as data-driven, page object model, and keyword-driven frameworks to make the automated test more robust and usable. So the next part is going to be the demo. What I'll be doing is I'll be showing you how to do a simple record and play, a little bit of low-code test management using the scripting language that it's using, which is Groovy. So it's a Java-based language. If you're familiar with Java, it's going to be a lot similar with that. And some test maintenance with the use of variables, data files, and test suites. So before we actually start, as I've mentioned, Catalan is developed or is owned by the Catalan organization. So initially it's free to download. It still is. However, some of the more premium and usable functionality is actually premium, or you have to subscribe for it. But the good thing is it's still the most basic functionality. You could create your automated test from scratch using the free version. So it has a free version which can be downloaded on their website. So they have a Studio Enterprise. This is the Studio Enterprise, and it's available for both on Windows and Mac OS. So I've downloaded it. Once it's set up on your machine, what you have is this application, this IDE. So it would load similar exactly to how this is. The only difference is that you'll be asked to create a project. So I've skipped that, but you can do it, create one on your own through here. Just select File, New, and then Project. So I already have this project demo, and the first thing that we need to do is familiarize ourselves with the navigation pane, the automation navigation pane. So it has 4 main components. First component is the test case. This is where our test cases are going to be written. The object repository where the the objects that being targeted by your test cases are stored. Our test suites to manage the test cases, and then the data files also manage the data that we're using later on to make our tests more reusable. So I'll start with doing a little bit of record replay. So how we could do this is just by clicking this record web button here. So there's actually plenty of tools here. So we have record mobile for mobile test and record Windows action for Windows and so many more. But for now, let's focus on web. I'll click that and it would launch a web recorder tool window or this one. And what you need to do is paste your URL that you wanted to test here. So for this session, we'll be using this component, OutSystems Uno. So this is actually developed by one of my colleagues in Phoenix, and he this is kind of a passion project for him to show how robust and how flexible, how creative OutSystems could be. And it's available on Forge, so that's a little plug there. Going back, so I've pasted the URL, which is installed in our environment, and you can hit record. So before you hit record, you can configure which browser you want to use. So I have Chrome, Firefox, and so on here, but it's most compatible with Chrome and it's the most recommended. So I'll start with that. Click record, and it would launch an instance of Chrome browser. It's launching, by the way, on the background. I'll just drag it onto the screen. And it would open the URL that we just entered there. So while it's loading, what it's going to be doing is that every elements that I highlighted, the mouse highlights within your browser session, particularly for this one, is, oh, so there's, I need to re-click the record since it's closed. Sorry for that. Let me try that again. So what I was saying is that every element that that my mouse is interacting with, the tool is going to be able to sniff. It's one of the functionality which is going to be shown. Let me try that again. I'm sorry about that. One more time.
Sorry, RJ. Is it not that you are limited by resources? Is there something that you maybe close?
It's my memory is a little bit low. But I'll try one more time, and if not, I'll just I have a backup test case here that we could run and just dissect.
Awesome, mate.
I'll try
Thanks.
one more time. Yep. Okay. So it's still launching. Hopefully it would push through. So what it's trying to do is it's actually trying to open a separate instance of the browser with the URL present. So before I drag it out, first let it load on my other screen. Okay, I think it's finally loading. Yeah. I guess it's just not responding. So, okay. I'm gonna stop the recording here. So once you stop the recording session, what it would do is it would be able to, how do you call it? It would be able to identify these actions that you did on your website, on your test site. And then when you click save script, it would create the test case for that one and save all the test cases here. So let's see if it was able to save something, even though we actually didn't do anything. So there you go. This is the best that it could do. So it opened up a browser. It navigated to a URL. and then somehow it open and close the browser. I think mainly because my memory is not enough. But this is how it would look like. It navigate these are the actions. Is how a test case would look like. So the test cases here have are on this column, and then the object would be the target of the actions, and then inputs are optional if the action that you've used or selected requires an input. And in this case, it's navigate to your URL. It requires an input of the URL. So here's a demo backup that I've created a while ago, just in case this kind of scenario happens. So the backup is a little bit more comprehensive than that, and of course, there's possible more different combinations that could be done. But what I did here is I set a text on an object called username, and the input for that is the username and password. The username, and then I also did the same for the password. I click a couple of buttons, a login button. I'll try and run this before I do anything and do some validations. So first, let me try and run this test case, by the way. So the way for us to run this is that you just need to click this play button and then select again the browser that we wanted our test to be run. And it should do the same, but this time a new instance, a new browser session that is going to be controlled by your test case instead before wherein it's a recorder that is doing the action. I'm also gonna try and turn off my camera if that helps. Okay, so here's the instance that Catalan has launched, the browser. So what it's trying to do is it's trying to replay the session that I recorded a while ago, where I entered the username, clicked login, verify, did a couple of verifications, created a new game, did a couple of verifications, started a new game, and then later on I will log out. So there you go. So it created logout. Okay. So there it is. I'm glad that worked, but that didn't quite capture the essence because it's kind of simple really to do that. After recording, it would just save all these actions along with the objects that are I've encountered with. So the objects are stored here within the object repository. So it's managed automatically. It depends on the page where what Catalan does is it creates a folder based on the page that you're from that you're interacting with. So for this instance, it's created four folders: the deck, game board, home, and then the login, and it's stored there automatically. So we could also manage this, make it more standardized in depending on your organization. If you wanted to make it more descriptive, you could just edit it or view the object locator. So this is the locator that this object button on shuffle uses. So we could tweak this depending on how we like. If ever the application most updated, this is where we'll be doing the updating. But going back to the application, to the test case, this is where those are being used. So right now, this is actually a pretty simple one, and it's not reusable, mainly because we used actual data within the actual script. So for us to make this usable, we need to create or utilize the variable functionality, which is on this tab. So as you can see, I'm still within the demo backup test case, and I just selected the variable view. So this has three views, by the way: the manual, two views, and then one for variable. So annual view contains the view which has been recorded, or the low code or no code view. And we have a scripting view which contains the actual view on the script. It's using Groovy language, which we could later tweak on. I'll be showing how. And then the variable view here, wherein we could add the variables to make our test case more usable. So I'll add a couple of variables like the username, the password. I've also added, oh, sorry, I was not able to say. I've also added a name that we could replace. And then from here, that's where this is one of the ways we could manage the data. So I'm going back to the manual, and I'll put the values that I've used here on the variable default values. So I actually have save it here, so it's a lot easier. And then for the name, RJ. So this creating the variables here doesn't mean it's gonna be automatically used there. So what we need to do is at least to use the variables here on the input instead of the actual text or strings. And we can do that here a lot more easier on the scripting view. We just need to get ourselves familiar. So first, this is the set text for the username val for the input username or the username field. I'll replace this with username. And similar to this section, password, I'll replace it with the password variable along with the name that I used as well. Let me see if I got that right. So what this is going to do now is it will be getting the variables from this section, and that means that all the default value here could be could be changed depending on the test case or the scenario that we want to do. So we could just rerun this, and then it will do the same. And then the next thing that you guys need to know is how to utilize this test case to make it to add more variations for it. So what you could do is, for example, because this is right now, this is a positive scenario, we could do a negative one. Like for example, failed login, because the first one is a successful one. Let's just say that it's a failed login. And then what we could do to manage this better is to add this on our test suite. So we could write a test suite for our whole application. This is where you could manage, or you could add manage the test cases that are created into more robust scenario, like an end-to-end scenario or regression test suite or a smoke test suite or a specific suite depending on the module that you wanted to test. So for example, I have here a smoke testing, and I wanted to add a test suite I'll call login. So this login scenario would have two scenarios, a failed and a successful. And how I could do that is just add the test cases that is available for us here. So what it's going to do is that when you run this test suite here, similar to how you're running the test cases, it would just run it right away, similar to how to do that. So yeah, it would run two test cases, by the way. So that's it for the demo. So if you have any more questions, you could reach out to the user group. I'll make sure to make myself available there and answer all Catalan related questions. But aside from the test automation, web test automation, there are other capabilities that tool is capable of. One of which is Windows and API testing. So it could record interactions within your window, as well as some API tests similar to Postman. It also can do mobile test automation using Appium. It needs a little bit more setup. It doesn't come right away off the box when you install it. It also has visual diff regression testing, a couple of integrations for cross-browser, for tools such as cross-browser testing devices, browser stack, sauce labs, and so on. CI/CD, once you've completed all your test cases and confident enough that you could use it into your DevOps or CI/CD framework and source management tools. So you notice I have here asterisk. This means that these are premium services or premium offerings from Catalan, and it doesn't work with the free one. It also has a new capability, which is self-healing, which is an AI assisted tool, which allows you to self-heal the tool itself, the test cases. Once, for example, you have updates and the test cases fails because of those, so it will be able to self-heal them. Lastly, who is this for? Who is Catalan for? Mainly, it's for teams with established QA process. As we all know, automation requires a more mature team, which has developed, which has already existing test cases, documentations, QAs that are doing the tests within the sprints, and following the SDLC or software development lifecycle and SDLC. Also for teams that doesn't have quite of the budget, that premium budget to hire a quality engineer, so you could just upscale your manual testers to try and do Catalan by starting from no code to low code. And if you want a tool that's just all in one, everything's there. Your manual test, your automated test for web and mobile, for visual diff, and for API, it's also a good one. So yes, that's it for my session this afternoon. Do you guys have any questions, or will we be offering that later after the end of everyone?
Thank you, RJ. Yeah, we'll have a short interlude for questions after the final session.
Okay.
Great presentation. Thank you. Really appreciate it. Over to Ben Go for automated testing using Playwright.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Hanno. Thank you, everyone, for coming to this presentations. I was just going to talk about automated testing using Playwright. And what we get for tonight, you get a bit of introductions of what Playwright is. I'll talk to you about two most important aspects of automated testing tools in Playwright: locators, assertions. And then we could just solve a problem. How do we verify a value of an element that is on a table? And then we're going to do a bit of a demonstrations of record and playback features of our Playwright. So what is Playwright? Playwright is a automated testing tools for web application. It was developed by Microsoft and first released in 2019. In 2017, the development team of Microsoft began working on the automated testing tools, and because they try to address some of the limitations in Selenium and Puppeteer. So Puppeteer is actually another automated testing tools by Google, but only issue is they only run on Chrome browsers. So in order to overcome these issues, Microsoft sort of Playwright was born, and it addresses the issues of cross-browser testings. So basically, you've got one script, you can run it on many browsers. It supports many different languages: TypeScript, JavaScript, Python, and .NET, and Java. As the demonstrations, I will demonstrate to you how Playwright is actually got a better, cleaner record and playback. Because when you record the script, you get to read the script and you understand what the script is doing. And Playwright also has an auto wait, so you don't need to put a specific line of code to say wait for X number of seconds. So here are some of the Playwright resources. You can go to playwrights.dev, and then you can select different platform you want to look at. It's got the Node.js, you got C#, you got Java. So all the libraries and the it will actually just show you what all the library functions are. And it includes installations, how you install your Playwright, and it gives you a bit of brief introduction of how you write the test, and it tells you about the test generator, which is record and playback, and it also lists out a list of locators and assertions. So, what is locators? Locators is actually a methods that from Playwright that actually helps you to identify elements on the page. So you can use ID, which on the element you can locate them straight away. You put that in. You can use CSS path. You can use XPath as well. But Playwright also comes with some really nice features called get by role, where you can actually say that this is a role in the web element, which is a button, and then you can actually sort of identify, oh, the name of the button has got a login. I can use that. I can identify that. You can identify text on the page. You can look at label. You can find placeholder, alternate text, title, test ID. This is actually an attribute in one of those elements that you can use. So you can find your elements using locators. You can also perform actions. So you can fill in your text, your input. You can perform clicks, and you can hover over a particular text item and actually find out what sort of pop-up alternate text text you got. And you also can imitate typing in an element. So let's look at a requirement. We need to verify La Trobe University. The record La Trobe University has got a number of 86351. So this is actually on the table. So normally what we do is we would go to the page, we right click, we inspect the element, we find it on the page, which is a TD, and then we copy the selectors, and we modify the CSS so that it becomes shorter. So this is how we do it. We've got the text, we put it in our code. Yep, we do other actions to it. This is actually when we write the code. So, but if you look at the previous code, previous slide, this CSS is quite long. It's very long. You can trim them down to a size, to a manageable size, but still, if they change table structures a little bit, it's going to, our test code is going to break. So how can we address this problem? We can make use of get by role, which is the methods that actually sort of provided by Playwright. So we can locate a cell, which is another row in on Playwright. So you say, okay, we go to cell 86351. Yeah, we find it, no problem. We can locate La Trobe University, also using get by role cell functions. So there are two TD elements. How? Because we need to verify La Trobe University has got a value, which is on another TD 86351. How do we do that? So we use another functions, which is an options by get by role called row, which is a table row. We identify the records on that row of table. We identify the row of table, but then we need to locate the TD element. If you actually look at going down to the row, and then we're going to sweep from left to right, which is your TD, right? So with Playwright, it gives you the ability to sort of do chain, what they call chaining of locators, basically locators of the locators. So in the first line, second line of code, we can see, okay, we found the row. We want to find the first child of TD, which is the first column. We can locate that, no problem. But what if somebody decided to move that numbers to third column to something? So in order to make the code more robust, we can actually say, yep, no problem, as long as the header is actually numbers. So wherever that the numbers, the column of the numbers are going to move to third or fourth, we're not going to miss it. So we'll be able to identify that column that we want. So we can find locations, we can locate the elements on the page. We also need to verify its values. So Playwright provides a list of assertions to verify your test. So we can look at buttons. So you got expect, then within the expect bracket, that's your locators. And then it's got some functions to assert the values. For example, like when you submit the buttons, submit the request, you want that submit button to be disabled because it's being processed. Or you can look at your user page, and that's supposed to be a internal users checkbox is being checked. Or when you submit a order, so process the order, your quality, your quantity label should not be editable. Or when you log into a page, you get to see a welcome message, or you can check your URL. So for the previous example, we're looking at locating a value. The code is going to be, you look at the La Trobe University row, which is, again, we go across that table, but then we sweep across from that row of table to find the column. And we try to make the code as robust as possible. We can say, yep, the header is actually the TD has got the value of our numbers, and to have text 86351. So this is how we actually sort of perform the assertions. So we got lots of coding in here. Let me do a demonstration. Just got to find that. Can you see my screen now?
Yes.
Thank you. So this is Visual Studio Code.
Actually, I can't see that.
Okay, sorry.
I think it's having a memory issue.
You can't see Visual Studio Code screen?
No. Didn't load properly.
Just hang on a minute. Let me just do something.
This looks white at the moment.
Okay, hang on.
Because you've got the option to share tab and to share window or share entire screen. And yeah, it might have to be one of the other ones.
Just hang on a minute. Let me try again. Windows.
Yay.
Yeah.
Good job. We can see it.
Okay. I have installed some extensions. Let me put this up a little bit. So I've installed Playwright extensions. Let me try to find a Playwright extension. I've installed Playwright for Visual Studio Code so that we can actually just there you go. So browsers. So I'm going to record a sort of a test actions. Clicking record. If you move mouse around, and you can actually see Playwright would actually sort of preview the locator that you are looking at. Get by label, usernames, password, so on and so forth. You can see this is actually a button. So and you can see the script is being recorded in the background. I'm going to tap across. I'm going to do another demo. Shift tap back. I do this for a purpose. I'm going to tell you why later on. I'm going to click login. Navigating to the menu items. So Get By Road tells you this is a menu item that has got stations. So it's very, very good in terms of actually recognizing some of the page elements. So we're just going to perform the test that I was actually showing you about how to actually assert a test that La Trobe University has got the value of 86351. Click on this. Yep.
It's just showing us the code, Ben. Although it's really interesting actually watching the code just appear.
Yep. So the code is here. My screen is quite limited. Yep. So I'm going to close these browsers down. So you can see the code that's being written in here. So it is very, very readable. It is so I can actually sort of like clean up some of the code. This is what we do normally when we do record and play. So I don't really need this line. So it imitates, for example, like press tab, and then from the use password, I do shift tab, actually move them back. So one of the applications for this is actually you can actually test the tab order by just perform this actions. So press tab, tap to the next field. Yep, I verified that field is this value, and we're tap across. So basically to make sure that accessibility testing is following the rules. So I'm going to close this so that I can write some code in here. So I'm going to modify the code in here a little bit so that I can do some assertions. Spec. How am I doing for time? Am I okay?
Sorry. I got so intrigued, I forgot to. Got about 2 minutes left, Ben.
Wow, okay. Sorry. This is what I actually said have before. Just going to close browser down. And save script. I'll play them. This verifies. Okay. It's got problem. Ah. That's my mistake. We meant to put row in here. We run the script again. It has passed. So I just want to show you one more thing. Remember we spoke about multiple, one script for multiple browsers. So I'm just going to choose 3 browsers at the same time. I'm going to run this script again. So it will run single script. You can run multiple browsers. So, which is one of the good features of Playwright. So this is another browser. I'm going to do the third one, which is here.
So Ben, we're just seeing your Visual Studio Code window. Is it actually opening the different browsers in the backend?
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So it saves you a lot of time from actually, writing specific script for specific browsers and that sort of things. Yep, all 3 tests actually pass. Yep. So, yep. Guys, thank you very much for your patience. We just went a little bit over, but yeah, that's the end of my presentations. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Ben. Now over to OutSystems champion, Stuart Harris, for the 5 things they don't tell you about performance testing.
Thank you very much, Hanno. So I'm Stuart Harris. I'm a software development lead at Kyandra IT and erstwhile OutSystems champion. So yeah, the first thing that I tell you about tips on performance testing is when they say 5, they actually mean probably a few more. So let's see, what are we going to look at here? So quickly talk about why we run performance tests. It's pretty obvious, I guess. Performance metrics, React web applications, talk about the test environment. We're going to tell the grown-ups what we're doing, plan to fix issues, and a bit about reporting. So, well, why do we do it? What's this going? Let's see, I'll just hide that. So, of course, we're making sure our application works for the required number of users and scenarios in your application. We also want to find the breaking point. So let's say we, want to find out that, it works for 50 users. We want to find out that, well, does it work for 100? Or does it start to break at, 95? When do we need to start worrying about getting another server or whatever? The other thing I really want to explain here is that why on earth am I telling you any of this? And that's because I've written a few performance tests in my time, and when I've got to the first time I ever did it, when I got to the end and I sat down and thought, all right, I've done all the tests, I've written the scripts, I've executed them. Now I'm going to write the report. And then I sat down to write the report and realized that I didn't have enough information. I hadn't collected enough information. I didn't actually really even know what I was testing. Maybe I just did a really bad job, but I had to go back and rewrite the scripts, confirm some things before I did that, and rerun all of the scenarios. So hopefully I can help you avoid doing that. So first of all, what I'd like to talk about is our performance metrics. You've probably seen a requirement like this before. All web pages must load in 2 seconds. That seems reasonable. The problem with this, though, is it's a summary of your performance requirements. The problem really is mandating all. So we have control over the server side of the web application, but we don't have control over the internet connection from the server to the end user. So if there's some little, network blip during our tests, if we say all within 2 seconds, it's going to fail, and it won't be a reflection of the performance of our application. So that's not enough. Okay, now I'm just going to jump straight into the end here, and I'll come back to performance metrics. Here's a report from JMeter, which is one of the tools that can be used for performance tests. So looking at this, we've got the average time. So I've cut a whole lot of stuff out of here. Each line is a different action. So maybe look at the first one. The first action is taking on average 4 seconds, but look at the minimum, 135. These are milliseconds, by the way. So 135 milliseconds, maximum 18 seconds. So the average is not really a good metric for performance tests. Median, I don't know, that's not much better. What's really useful, though, is the percentiles. So a response time percentile shows the response time that a percentage of requests are as fast or faster than. So for our next metric, we want to say, instead of 2 seconds, we want to say either 99% of requests or 95% of requests respond within 2 seconds. That's something that you can work with. Right, now, next up with our performance metrics, would you think like 2 seconds is a reasonable performance metric for running a report or an admin screen? No, of course, no, you say, of course it's not. So is it really all pages that we're concerned about? Probably not. So maybe we need to specify particular test scenarios. For example, like lodging a job application or submitting a claim or calculating an insurance premium, or maybe all the scenarios for, brokers or customers or something. And maybe exclude scenarios like admin pages or configuration or executing a report. Right, so let's have a look. 2 seconds, no good. 2 seconds, 95% of the time, that's better. How about the number of users? So maybe we have 50 concurrent users, 2 seconds, 95% of the time, that's even better. Even better again, 50 users, scenario A, whatever that is, within 2 seconds, 95% of the time, with 5 admins doing stuff and 1 report being executed. That's even more realistic. So what we're doing there is we're making the test be a reasonable comparison or reasonable example of what the actual use of the application is going to be. And maybe we just say accept reports no or admin pages no. So here's a really good performance metric. All pages for applicants and recruiters load within 2 seconds, 95% of the time, 50 concurrent users, 10 seconds between requests. Imagine if that was 2 seconds between the requests. You've actually just changed the performance by a factor of 5. And none of that other stuff was different. And then maybe specify your internet connection speed and then a location, maybe in Sydney. So this is a good metric. If you only take this away from this presentation, take that. Right. So now I would like to talk a little bit about React Web Application. So a React Web Application is a single page application. Sometimes we just say a modern web application. If we look over the right hand here, I've got, our OutSystems application on the server, but then we've got an application running in a web browser. And then we've got our test tools that are going to be running our tests. So single page applications, a lot of the code actually runs in the browser. So you might sort of say, all right, well, I need to be testing the performance in the browser with my tests. And maybe you do. Which one of your requirements includes, and realistically, probably should. If one of your requirements includes how long until the page is displayed, not really just the HTTP response, then you probably need a tool that actually does test the browser, like Playwright or Selenium or Catalan or that we just saw. But here's the thing, right? So that would be a really accurate, correct test. If you think about it, the JavaScript in your browser is just running for one user at a time. But all the requests hitting your application server is just one. And, well, you might have a couple of them load balanced, but that's really where the performance hits. So you could test separately, and some test tools do this, test separately the performance of the JavaScript in your browser, and then have a separate performance test using an older tool like JMeter that just does HTTP. When I've done tests on single page applications, for the scenarios that I've used, using something like JMeter was enough for me. But generally, because the apps I've been using, the browsers are fast enough, and the JavaScript in the browser hasn't really been a problem. How do I know that? Well, good question. Okay, so now if we're using something like JMeter, with any sort of web application, this is not just OutSystems. If you're sending HTTP requests, you've got to deal with anti-forgery. So there's an awesome idea that developers have come with called anti-forgery tokens, which makes developers' lives hell if they're trying to do HTTP requests. What you have to do is to put in a cross-site request forgery token in the web application when you send it back, but that changes every time that you log in. So in OutSystems, the way you do that, there's a cookie called number2users that's got a little CRF value in it. You've got a URL decode that value and then stick it back in the X-CSRF token header in your test. I don't know. This is the probably bit that you actually wanted to know from this section, so I thought I'd just include it. Look at this ugly screen. This is JMeter. This is how you suck that part out of that cookie. So you use a regular expression extractor on this this cookie on headers, and this regular expression will find that cookie and then pull out that little part after CRF %3D, which is actually equal URL encoded. So I don't know. There you go. You get the if you get the video of this, then just look at that. Then what you need to do is decode it. This is a bit tricky in JMeter. You've got to add this weird JSR 223 processor, which basically just runs some Java. And this is how you decode it. I don't know, probably pretty boring, but that's how you do it. So have a good look. Right, next. Then you stick it in that header. Right, that's anti-forgery. Next, I'd like to talk about test environments. We saw an awesome example there. Thank you for previous presentations of a machine running out of memory. Don't use an Apple Lisa. Make sure your test server has enough power. You're also going to need a static IP address. This is also why I was talking about JMeter and those other tools. There's a lot of cloud testing tools that you can use to run your performance tests. If you look at the pricing of them, none of them tell you how much it costs for a static IP address. So they let you create all your tests and then run them. As soon as you need a static IP address, it costs a lot more. I've got by with just using a VM in Azure and just running JMeter. So the other thing about your test environment, are you going to be running this in production? You probably should. You probably should be running it against your production infrastructure. But if you're going to do that, you'll be creating data in your test environment or in your performance test. You're going to have to make sure that you've got the code ready to delete that test data out of your production environment. Look, sometimes we don't run it on production. Sometimes we'll run it in a pre-prod or UAT environment. But generally it's not exactly the same. And then you've got to make some sort of calculation of, is this close enough? All right, give it enough power. That thing about the static IP address, you need to tell OutSystems and who will tell AWS and add stuff to firewalls so that your tests don't get blocked. If you run a performance test that simulates 50 users from one IP address, immediately your application is just going to start blocking and you'll think, hang on, the test failed, but it didn't. It's just you didn't tell the grown-ups that you were testing. Also make sure that no one else is using your application. Expecting a cough soon. So the other piece of advice that I have is if you're going to run a test, leave some time in your plan to fix the performance issues. So don't wait until you've run the tests and then go, we've got some issues to fix. We're not going to be able to deploy on time. Put that time in place. I know it's probably pretty obvious, but make sure you plan for that. All right. So, and use a dog to fix the issues. Also, here we go. The final thing is you'll need to write a report. Well, often you'll need to write a report if you've done some testing. So you'll need to analyze the results. With the metrics met, well, the logs from your testing tool should be able to tell you that. If the metrics weren't met, or even if they were close, you're probably going to have to identify if there are any bottlenecks and where they were. So you probably want to make sure that you gather information during the tests about the load on your infrastructure. So was it memory? Was it CPU? Was one server being hit and the other one not? And then you want to run your tests a number of different times with a number of different users to identify the breaking point. And then you can kind of write up your report. So this image, this is another, I like JMeter, right? This is another JMeter report showing you the response time percentiles. This is the end result of all of your hard work. And this is the main thing that you really want to put in your report. You can see here that the slowest request, you see it wasn't the slowest all the time, but this red one, the slowest request was at 99% within 2 seconds. So we met it, but this is the graph that you're after. So hope you're all still there. I'll stop presenting.
Thank you, Stuart.
Happy performance testing.
Thank you.
That was more than 5, wasn't it?
Well, yeah, 20. So I think you still have a couple of minutes left. Any questions?
Oh, I better show that. Oh, thanks, Bruno, for putting in the data migration manager. Good idea.
Cool.
Right. Well, it was so good. No questions. Everyone can go away and. All right. How long does it usually take to write a performance test? Yeah. Well, how long's a piece of string? That's a great question, though. Look, if you're doing, the thing is, you need to know what you need to have experience on the tools that you're using. So if you don't have experience on the tools, you've got to factor in that. But if you're experienced though on, I'll talk JMeter, then you've got a scenario, maybe you've got about, I don't know, 10 pages that you need to do. And I'd probably give that a couple of days for writing the test. Then I'd give it maybe another 2 days for running and executing the tests, maybe a little bit more, because you keep on running them over and over and you go, oh, damn, I didn't do that thing. But then you've got to, you'll generally go 10 users, 50 users, 100 users, 150, 140, 100. So you'll run it a lot of times. And then you'll go, oh, I forgot to switch on the infrastructure. So if it's a simple test, about a week, maybe 2, and that's only one scenario. So sometimes you actually want to be running multiple scenarios. So give yourself another couple of days again to write the other scenario. Then you want to be able to run them together. I don't know. That was a pretty unclear answer, but 1 to 2 weeks. Yeah, that's full time in terms of effort. Yeah.
Cool, thank you. So that's typically not something you do in sprint, right?
No, and then you've got to kind of request. You've got to get your static IP, and you got to line a few ducks up in a row.
Yeah. So as part of your delivery cycle, this will be towards the end as part of your stabilization.
It will. I'd have a word to the developers about making sure, like planning how we're going to actually run it. So that's something that you can do early. And you can have a word to the developers about making sure that you've got the tools there to be able to clean up the production environment. Make sure you've got the production environment available in time, that sort of stuff. So in terms of, with any sort of automated testing, you can break the scenarios. The thing that's good about React Web, that's much better than traditional web, if you change one thing on a page in traditional web, the HTTP request changes, your view state changes. But with React Web, it's actually a little bit less brittle. Well, it's actually a lot less brittle than that. But if there are changes in your page, then yes, you're going to have to, and generally you record your JMeter tests and then go and update them. So yeah, you'll have to re-script them. Well, thanks everyone. Appreciate it.
Cool. Thanks, Stuart. Thank you for your participation tonight. Hope to see you at the next one. And have a good night, good morning, good afternoon.
Thank
See you
you.
guys.
Everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks,
Bye.
everyone.
Bye.